was done up for me by my brother, the Prairie Dunker, so remember to go check his channel out if you haven't already. So today what we're going to be doing, we are at the Agora shop. This is kind of our home base for woodworking and cabinetry and everything like that. So I've got Colin here with me. He's going to do a bit of kind of an explanation and just kind of going over kind of all the little cool things about this passive shop. So it's pretty cold and windy out here today, so I'm just going to make this quick. This is basically it from the outside, and we'll go discuss it a little bit inside. Okay, so like the passive house we're building, this shop is also passive, but the wall assembly is a little bit different. So do you want to tell everyone about that?
Yeah, hi, Austin. Happy New Year, everybody. So this shop was one of the first of its kind in Saskatchewan. It's a vapor permeable wall assembly throughout. However, the R values are different. So right now we're standing inside the drive-through. And the drive-through is an R20 wall assembly, like a conventional wall, but it still uses a particular kind of exterior sheathing that we sourced from Europe, and it's called Agora DWD. And this is a fiber board that allows moisture to go both ways depending on seasonal pressure variations. So the same can be said for these 2x6 walls. They have, much like the near passive in Lloyd, we use a fir plywood interior air barrier that's taped. And as you can see, we haven't actually got around to taping our insulation holes, but we will once we go to clad. And then on the exterior, it's the Agora DWD. What you can see up here is about a 650 foot square foot mezzanine that we use to store supplies, and we also do a lot of our finishing, our cabinet finishing up there. And overall, the drive-through is what I consider to be a buffer zone. So what this does is it creates like a foyer effect on the other side of the plane of our passive cabinet shop, which we can show you next.
So another neat feature about these passive buildings is the high quality overhead doors. So tell everyone a little bit about the overhead doors in this building.
So I sourced these doors from Germany. These are built by a manufacturer called Horman. And this is considered one of the warmest overhead doors on the market. It's about 3 inches thick. They use good quality hardware, and it also offers the option of having what they call wicket doors. So the wicket doors allow you to pass freely through the shop with a man door opening, so you don't lose a lot of heat. It also allows you to run trolleys and whatnot over the threshold without damaging anything. And then when you do have to bring in material, you can open up the entire door and get it all done. And then for the majority of the time you're using the door, you're really only passing through this man door size hole. And yeah, they're just a really nicely finished, nicely put together door. And considering what you need a door like this for, they would be worth the money, since North American manufacturers don't really offer something like this that's this high quality, with gaskets to actually seal everything, and thermal bridge blocking. So in these registration points, there's foam that allows the door to seal and doesn't allow a lot of draft between the panels. So overall, good quality stuff. Like most of the stuff that we expect from Germany, it doesn't fail to disappoint. Over here, we do a lot of metal breaking. Austin knows all about this. We usually bring this on site when we're doing a lot of work on site, but we still will break packages and then send them out to site if we can manage it. And then the rest, as you can see, it's not really that organized yet. We just blew the ceiling of the mezzanine. Actually, Austin and Colin did that, but yeah, so we just usually store a lot of our contracting tools around here.
So now that we got everything kind of looked at in the drive-through, we're gonna go to the interesting part and take a look inside the cabinet shop. And here's just kind of a panoramic view of the shop, the layout. Since it's kind of hard to visualize everything on video. So one of the first thing that kind of catches my eye when I walk into the building is this interesting style of floor. So tell everyone a little bit more about this floor.
So this is also a product from Agapan, and it's a non-toxic zero formaldehyde OSB that was brought over from Germany. And one of the reasons I wanted to use it in here was to offer clients a different way of imagining what a workshop could be. And a lot of the times people tend to associate workshops with back pain and standing on concrete and shin splints and all that. So what I did here was run these 1-inch thick tongue and groove matched sheets on top of 2x4 sleepers, and underneath the sleepers are rubber shock absorbers that I salvaged from a job probably about 5 years ago. These are what are usually used in hardwood gymnasium floors, and I just used the same style of floor but with a different sheathing rather than hardwood. So with this floor, it does a couple things. First off, it deflects as you walk on it. You're able to make the floor take some of the shock that your skeleton usually takes. And secondly, it allows you to, if you mishandle a tool or a chisel, it doesn't need to have 10 minutes of work done on it at the grinding station. Whereas when you do that on a concrete floor, that's the next step. One of the other nice things about the floor is it's a warm-looking feature of the shop, so we can have a lot of natural lighting shining on the floor, and the warm hue, I think, helps with one's mood when you're working.
So the windows in here are very similar to the ones in the Passivhaus. So tell everyone a little bit more about these.
Yeah, so they're the same style of window. They're called tilt and turn windows, right? So just like the Meyer house that you folks are familiar with, they open on 2 axes. So you can vent, or you can treat it like an inverse casement, and you can wash the window like that. They seal very well, and they're sort of necessary when you're building passive envelopes, because you don't want to pour a pile of energy, time, money, basically resources into your wall assemblies, and then outfit all of your openings with poor performing windows and glazing. It sort of defeats the purpose of the wall. So once you commit to a passive envelope, you are sort of handcuffed into going all the way, or else you're throwing away money and time. So the walls in this particular project are like you saw in the drive-through, using an Agapan DWD wood fiber sheathing on the exterior, and then you have a rain screen system, which is just vertical 2x4s, and then your siding. Now in the actual passive envelope, you'll have the framing constituted by 14-inch TJIs, and that's throughout the building. So the whole shell is dense packed with cellulose, 14 inches thick. And then, like the Meyer house, we also have a 2x4 interior cavity, which has a bat of Roxel in it. So obviously this shop is still a work in progress, and you can see here we still have to put our casing on. And with our casing, Austin and I have decided that we want to try experimenting with something sort of new and fresh. So we want to create burlap covered casing that will help eat up sound waves and sort of muffle sound in the shop. And that's what we're going to use, is a colored burlap casing that'll probably be about 6 inches thick all around the windows. And we'll also make some acoustical panels out of that to put them in key spots in the shop. So yeah, this shop is sitting, the foundation is actually sitting on 8 inches of high density foam. So we have about R32 underneath the concrete footings and underneath the entire floor system. So there's 3 floor assemblies in this shop. So you have your footing system, and then in between your footings are a treated 1 foot on center joist system. And on top of that is a rough plywood system, and then on top of that is our floating sleepered system with the floating egg panel sheathing. So yeah, why did I go to all this trouble? Well, what we were trying to create, or what I was trying to create, was an example of what you can do in this kind of climate. So right now it's minus 25 out, and I have all electric heat, and we hold this room at about, what would you say, Austin, 17, 18 above?
Yeah, that's about right.
About right.
Average.
So we do all that with, can you see in there, Austin?
Yeah, I'll walk in
Luckily I
there.
don't have the door done for this yet. That's a $350 electric water heater that feeds warm water through a hydronic line system in my footings. And for supplemental heat in the winter, I've invested $500 in 3 Amaze wall heater units that are basically just ceramic panels that radiate heat. Each one, I think, is 400 or 600 volt. 600 watt, my bad. 600 watt ceramic heaters. And we are heating the equivalent of 6 bungalows worth of space with those 3 wall heaters and our relatively inexpensive boiler system for our footings. What does that sum up to in dollars and cents? Well, for me to run this small factory and keep it warm and run all the machinery and the lighting and everything else that we use for tools when we plug them in, it costs me about $400 a month with our cost of power. So that's very reasonable for electricity.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, a conventional shop would probably be running close to $1,500 to $2,000 per month to run. This also has the added benefit of not being susceptible or prey to ratcheting up carbon taxes that will definitely accompany your natural gas bill as it gets itemized out. And you will see a lot of that in our power. So granted, most of the electricity that we're using is all natural gas steam turbine generated, but we're using it much more efficiently and much less power to run such a building. And that's the first step. So in the future, depending on how state subsidies work, we will definitely be looking at a photovoltaic array, and we could probably power all the lighting and the heating with that. And of course, we don't really have, I don't think I have the capital or we have the technology to run a battery system to run these machines, but you never know in the future. This could be a possibility, and the shop would probably be retrofittable for that.
Do you still have that mock-up you made of the wall assembly?
I do.
That we could show off?
I do upstairs, yeah. Do you want me to?
Yeah, let's go see. Okay, so this is the mock-up that Colin made quite a while. How long ago did you make this?
Well, this has been a 4-year work in progress, so.
Yeah, what year did you start building the shop, by the way? 15,
Yeah.
okay. So yeah, just kind of, this will help everyone kind of visualize the wall assembly a little bit more.
Right, so here again is our 2x4 interior cavity. This is what we run on, it's a mechanical chase, and we don't have to puncture our air barrier. This is what the entire envelope is built out of, 14-inch TJIs. Minimal thermal bridging through these webs. And then a Roxel bat goes in here after your mechanicals and electricals done, and then into the major cavities is dense packed cellulose. On the exterior is your Agapan DWD, and it's all matched sides, tongue and groove. And this allows moisture to transfer through each way, allows the wall to dry during some seasons, and allows humidity to pass back into the building. And these are our rain screens, which are just simple construction grade 2x4s, structural screw, and then our siding goes on.
Very cool. So now we can kind of look into some of the machines that we have in this shop and what makes them special.
All right, so the way that I've set the shop up is that obviously we're going to break down a lot of our big panels right away and get them prepared for edge banding. So for that process, I opted for a pretty versatile machine. This is an SCMI SI400 EP5 CNC slider. And it's a beautiful machine to use. It's very precise, but it's also very versatile. So you're not really dealing with a machine dedicated to only doing one thing one way. You can, if you wanted to, process solid lumber. You can use a lot of creativity when you're running this machine, and it's something that just basically makes one's life easier when you're working in the shop. In conjunction with the machine, I invested in a Schmalz vacuum lift with a 16-foot jib, and that allows you not to suffer injuries and fatigue, because each one of these 4x8 sheets weighs approximately 88 pounds. And that doesn't sound like a huge sum, but 88 pounds spread or distributed over 4 feet by 8 feet is quite awkward to handle. And it presents a human body with a lot of problems, because it's very difficult to slug these things around and not drop them. So the vacuum lift has been a very, very, very good investment for saving your body. And without this, your life becomes a little bit more miserable every day, because you'd have to lift these with your own, leverage. But this basically gets you out of that predicament.
Do you want to do a demo on that and
I can,
show them
yeah,
how
of
it
course.
works?
Sure. So. To control this, you just have to twist up or down, and then once it's indexed past the release point, it will drop the sheet. So this is how I usually do it. I figure out how I'm going to process a sheet. This isn't full on, of course, and then place it on the cut wagon, so I don't have to move it too far by hand, and then just vacuum up the tube and bring it back over.
Very cool.
I would probably have a fairly significant masseuse bill every week. We can do things quite effortlessly. So the next machine in the process of building frameless cabinets, at least in my sequence, is the edge bander. This edge bander isn't new by any stretch. They're quite pricey machines. So this is actually almost 20 years old, but it's a very well-built production edge bander. Also SCM. It's got 8 stations, everything from pre-mill all the way through to buffing, and even a heat gun for colored edge banding. And it does a trick. it's clean, it's heavily built, and I think it's a little bit easier to repair because it's a little lower tech than a lot of the newer machines. And yeah, this just basically speeds up the edge finishing process on our panels and gets them ready for our boring station. So we can get our shelf index holes and our dowel construction holes done on the panels and get them ready for assembly. So following edge banding, we take it to this machine, and this is a Ganymed Optima 21. Just a really easy to use dowel construction boring machine. And what it does is it punches 8-inch holes in the face and in the edges of our panels, and you install a 8 by 30 mil dowel into these holes, and that's what actually holds the cabinets together. So from there, I usually take it to this. This isn't an ideal machine, but it does the trick for now. It's just a line boring machine, and it's still manual. Ideally, I'd like to upgrade to a dual line boring machine. I think that would be worthwhile. And this just allows you to do 32 mil on center shelf index holes, and you set everything so it'll also accept your Blum hardware or your hinges. So 37 mil from the leading face, and also for your drawer system. So I usually use tandem box drawer systems and Taro on the Myers job. And yeah, this is another machine that's really, it's worth its weight in gold, because to do this manually or to use you know, jig systems would be laborious, time consuming, and fraught with mistakes. This simplifies, and it makes it easier to do things rapidly but still fairly precisely. All right, so from the boring step or stage, we come right to assembly, and I use a pneumatic case clamp, and this is also something that really speeds up the process. So rather than using hand clamps like Bessie K-bodies or whatever, which are nice clamps, regardless, this is much quicker. All you do is set your frame to your cabinet size, assemble your cabinet loosely, and then slide it in, and then turn on your clamp activator and walk away. We do a lot of solid wood processing machine too, and I was very fortunate to pick up this Canuck Combi. It's a Profi 410. Beautiful machine. It's built in Austria and pretty heavy. It's a 5-function combination machine. Now I don't use the mortising attachment that often. In fact, I've only used it twice. But it's got a 16-inch joiner planer, a 9-foot slider, and a tilting spindle molder underneath these concentric rings. Yeah, not much to say here. You can tell just by looking at it, it's very well built. And once a person gets adept and accustomed to using it, you can do a lot of really sometimes involved operations pretty efficiently. We have a bigger sliding carriage, like an outrigger table, a cut wagon, that you would use if you were processing sheets, but because we have the CNC slider for that, we usually use this mostly for solid wood and smaller sheet processing or trimming. That's why I have the cut wagon in the rear position, so we're pushing the product through rather than pushing it up against the fence and then pushing the material through. You're pushing the actual fence through and the materials in front. Yeah, just an awesome machine. Austin's used this off and on, and I think you like it, eh, Austin?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, a couple modifications. It didn't come with this clamp plate, but this is something that makes it a bit safer to use. So you can, when you're straight lining lumber, you can slide this to the desired spot and install or put your lumber on your extruded aluminum. And clamp it down and then slide.
Yeah, that's pretty handy.
Yeah, it just makes it a bit safer.
Okay, so over here we got the dust collection system and just some other more basic woodworking tools. So what's kind of the deal with this dust collection system as opposed to the other one?
Right, so we haven't really spoken about the big one, but the reason I included this in the shop is that I wanted to collect fuel. So when I was imagining how the shop would function, I wanted to separate the collection of burnable wood chips from the collection of sawdust from more resin-laden products, which is the majority of our cabinet material is full of resin, and it's not something that you can so easily burn with most wood stoves. But this you can. So it's not done, obviously. I haven't quite decided on all the machinery, but this will pick up a lot of our solid wood machining, smaller tools. So the lathe and the bandsaw, edge sander, all these things will eventually be plumbed into this machine. And it's a good machine. It has a HEPA filter. It's remote control, so you can turn it on and off while you're working at your station and not having to put on extra miles, because we know we do enough of that. And it'll eventually be plumbed through this way, all the way to our cabinet maker's bench to pick up our Blum mini press drilling machine. And yeah, it's
I guess we could go over this dust collector while we're at it too.
Yeah, absolutely. So building a passive shop presents one with a lot of problems. Ideally, you would want to locate an industrial collection unit like this outside, but it would defeat the purpose of running a passive shop. You'd be drawing all of your warm air out and bringing a bunch of cold air in. And we couldn't do that. So I did have to find one built for indoor use. And this is just a Dantherm NFP20, I think. It's a big 48 bag dust collector, and this is what most of our cabinet making machines are hooked up to. And we keep the shop pretty clean, as you can tell. The idea here was, of course, we don't want to ruin our bodies or our lungs or have emphysema or other problems down the road. So yeah, I installed one of these, and it takes care of business, no problem. I think it has a 25 horse motor on it, and I still have lots of options with my main manifold. So like I said, I still have to plumb in some machines once I get that figured out with regards to where they're going to sit in the process. But like most things in my life, it's a work in progress. All right, so in the suite of solid lumber or solid wood machining tools, we have a 37-inch two-head sander. And this dual-head sander is just also, again, it's a machine that if you've never had one, you wouldn't, I don't think many people would think much about it. But once you use it for an hour or two, you soon realize how much labor such a thing saves. And I mean, Austin's used it too.
Oh yeah.
It's so convenient to just set your solid piece underneath the sensor, calibrate it, turn the belt on, and go and catch it on the other side, and it's done. So these things are really awesome. If we have the odd face frame little project to do, then this makes our life quite nice. If we're doing tabletops or sills out of solid wood, this is beautiful. So if you follow me, we glue up a lot of our panels, solid wood panels, on our JLT buddy system clamp. And then from there, you know, once you chip the glue off, it goes right to the wide belt sander. And It's yeah, it's great. Just an awesome machine. This is another machine in the solid wood side here. This is an SCMI T130 EP4 CNC shaper, and the fence and the spindles are all electromotorized, so it's a very precise machine. You can build doors, you can do profiling, you can do whatever you want. It's again, really nice addition to the shop. So this is our mini press station. This is how we do all of our Blum fittings for our panels and drawer fronts and doors. Again, nice machine. Once you get accustomed to using it, you would never want to go to something like this ever again, which is also good, but nothing that compares to the actual mini press. The people watching it that are familiar know exactly what I'm talking about. The people that have built cabinets without this, yeah, it's a lot more torturous doing it without.
Well, that's pretty much it for the shop tour. There is an upstairs to the shop as well, but we're just going to hold off on showing you guys that until we start working up there and getting that finished. We'll probably do a series of finishing the upstairs, so that should be fun. And again, huge shout out to the Prairie Dunker for making me that new intro. I hope you guys like that. A little less dorky than my other one. And before any trolls try and report me for copyright music, I recorded that on my piano, so good luck with reporting that. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. More to come on the Passivhaus and lots of other projects that I have planned. So also you can follow me on Instagram at Austin_Tischler and check out my merch store. Unfortunately, you won't be able to find a jacket like this. This is just one I had made up for myself. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.